going, guys? This is Seth here with Renaissance Resurrection. Welcome to part 2 of this YouTube series on how to build and hack a web application. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate every single one of you who watch these videos. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to create an Ubuntu server in VirtualBox and then how to put a LAMP stack on it. So a LAMP stack basically stands for Linux operating system, Apache web servers, MySQL databases, and then PHP so that we can code all the dynamic content that's going to be transferring data from our website to our databases, or to our database rather, on our website, which will be hosted on our servers. So I'm going to show you guys how to build that out. Also, if you don't want to miss the future videos from this series, I ask that you please drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and then if you go down to the description of my video, you'll find my personal website with all of my platforms on there. So that way you guys can follow me on social media and not miss announcements for future videos and series. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into how to configure a LAMP stack on our own Ubuntu server. Alrighty guys, so the very first thing we're going to do is go ahead and pop out to this URL, mirror.aarnet.edu.au, and here we're going to go ahead and click on Ubuntu, and then we'll go to all the releases of the Ubuntu versions, and we're going to go ahead and work with 16.04 releases. This isn't the most up-to-date version, but it'll serve well for everything that we need to do, and there's a ton of information already out on it. So what we're going to do is go ahead and download the AMD 64 version of the ISO disk image. So this is what we want. We want just the server. We don't want the actual desktop version or anything like that. We want Ubuntu 16.0.4.7 server version, 64-bit ISO disk image. So if you click that and go ahead and download it, I'm not going to do it because I already have the disk image on my computer, but this is going to be the one that you want to download. Now, once you have that downloaded, you're going to go ahead and go to VirtualBox. You're going to hit New for a new virtual machine, and you can just call it Ubuntu Server. I already have a virtual machine called Ubuntu Server, so I'm going to call this Ubuntu Server 2. It's going to pick up that it's Linux and it's 64-bit Ubuntu, so these are the ones you want to select for that. Hit continue. I typically give my VMs at least 4 gigs of memory, so I'll go ahead and go with that. Now create a virtual hard disk. That's what we want to do. I typically go with just the default VDI for my disk image, VirtualBox disk image, dynamically allocated for the storage, and then you select your actual disk size. 10 gigabytes is good. So we'll go ahead and create this virtual machine. You can see it just popped up here. It's powered off though. We haven't done anything with it yet. So now we actually have to specify the ISO disk image that we just downloaded. So we'll go over here, pop over to settings, and then we'll go to storage. And you can see here, this is the virtual disk image that we just made. And then we need to go to this and specify the ISO file. So you go over here and you click this little CD icon and you choose your ISO file. So in this case, like I said, this is the most up-to-date version, but this is going to be the one that we're working with just because there's a lot of information already out on it for you to look up, and then it's also going to serve more than enough for all the needs that we're going to need for this lab. So we'll select your Ubuntu 16.0.4 server. And worst case scenario, you actually have to select this yourself and then go dig through your files to find it. If you go to your downloads, it'll be in your recents somewhere. You can see right here, it's in my 16.0.4.7 AMD 64 ISO. So I'll go ahead and open that up and then just hit OK. So now you've specified your disk image and we should be good to go ahead and hit start. So this is going to go ahead and boot up the operating system, the virtual machine, the server, the whatever you want to call it, right? And now it's asking me to select a virtual disk file that I want to use. Like I said, I'm going to use the 16.04.71. Hit start on that, and now it's going to go ahead and boot up for me. So it's going to go ahead and boot up. It's going to ask you to select your language. Obviously, we're just going to go with English. and then we're going to install Ubuntu Server. Another thing to mention is that because this is a server, we're going to be interacting specifically in the command line interface, so there's not going to be any graphical user interface and pointing mouse and clicking. So English, United States, you can have your keyboard layout detected. No, I don't want to do that. I'm going to select English for my keyboard, English for my keyboard. Now it's loading the module and scanning the CD-ROM, and then it's going to be purple for a little bit. There we go. Just setting everything up, booting it all up. So this is going to go ahead and get our server ready to go for us to put the lamp stack on it. Alrighty, so now we're going to enter the host name, which identifies your system to the network. So I'll just call it, I'm just going to name it myself. I'll just call it Seth. And now I'll just call it Seth as well. Select the username for the new account. Your first name is a reasonable choice, right? Seth, choose a password. I'm going to enter my password so you guys don't know what it is. And I'm just going to make sure I did it correctly. And then re-enter password to verify. There we go. And then may configure your home directory for encryption such that any files. No, that's not really necessary. This is going to be a pretty sandboxed environment, not interacting with too much. Now, go ahead and just select your time zone. Stuff here. Now I'll just go ahead and use the entire disk. This is the disk that I set aside for it. Now, if you continue, the changes listed below will be written to disk otherwise. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and hit yes on that. And now it's installing everything onto the system. So it's going to take a second, guys, and then I will get back with you once it's done. Oh, and another thing that I completely forgot whenever we were setting up settings, let's go back to that really quick while that's still finishing everything it needs to. And let's go over to network. And then we'll do a bridged adapter on this. This is better for our network settings for what we're going to be doing. So just hit OK on that. Okay, so now that we have our network settings where they need to be, let's go ahead and pop back over to the virtual machine wherever it's hiding. There it is. And it's going to ask us if we need to use a HTTP proxy. We do not need to do that. So we'll just continue. Okay, so we have gotten through that install process there, and it's going to ask us if we want to do automatic updates. I'm going to select no automatic updates because we can just do that very easily from the command line, and then from here it's going to ask us if we want to do any pre-installed software packages. I don't want us to do the LAMP server because I want you guys to see how to configure it manually, so don't check that because it's better as a developer to know how to do that yourself. So we'll just install it with the standard system utilities and hit OK. Alright, now it's going to ask us if we want to use the grub bootloader, so you'll hit yes on that. And it's going to take 1 second to install that. And then from here, it's just finishing the installation of everything that we've configured thus far. So I'll let that run. Alright, now the installation is finished, so it's time to boot into the system. Let's get her going. Now we're actually going to go ahead and get into the lamp stack portion of the video. Alright, there we go, Seth login. So that's my username, and here's my password. So now we are into our Ubuntu server. Congratulations, you have made your own Ubuntu server. So now we're going to go ahead and put Apache on it, right? So let's just run sudo apt-get, apt-get update. And it's going to ask me for my sudo password one time for the one time. Now it's going to run through this process. and it's going to get all this fun stuff. Alright, so this is done. Now we're going to run sudo apt get install our actual Apache 2 web servers. Now it's going to read all the package lists, get all the dependencies, and it's going to say how much more space that's going to take. We'll hit yes on that, and then it'll just take a second from here. Alrighty, so now we have Apache servers. Now, the next thing that we're going to need to do is we're going to set our server name globally so that we can suppress some syntax warnings that we might get. So we'll just run ifconfig in order to get our, oops, I did not mean to put that little, dang it, I did it again. We're going to run ifconfig to get our IPv4 address, and that is 192.168.1.28 there. So 192.168.1.28. We will go ahead and move into what is the conf file path for this? I think it should be sudo. I like to use vi. You can use nano or whatever. etc and then Apache 2. Yep, and then the conf configuration file for Apache. Now we will scroll all the way down to the very bottom of the page and include our server name. There we go. So we'll call it server name, and then it is 192.168.1.28. Alrighty, and I'm fairly certain that that is what it was. Let me double check. It's easy. And but come on now, why are you being difficult? It's easy. There we go. And then if we run ifconfig one more time, we can see that, yep, 192.168.1.28. Okay, beautiful. So now, once we have that done, the next step would be to run a configuration test just to make sure that we're not getting any sort of syntax errors. So that would be sudo apache 2 ctl config test. And you can see that the syntax is okay. So now we'll just restart Apache so that our changes get implemented, and that command will be sudo system ctl restart Apache 2. Now, the next thing that we're going to need to do after doing that is to adjust the firewall so that we can allow web traffic for HTTP and HTTPS, because obviously we're going to be building web applications. So that command will be sudo ufw app list. Now you can see that we have Apache, Apache full, and Apache secure. So Apache full actually allows information or traffic, I mean, to ports 80 and 443, so HTTP and HTTPS. So if you actually just run sudo ufw app info on Apache full, you will find that you can see 80 and 443 are open. So now we're going to allow incoming traffic on that profile. So that command will be sudo ufw allow in Apache full. Okay, and now we can just do a spot check really quick to make sure that that worked. So if we just pop out to a browser, where I thought I had one open, yep, there we go. If we pop out to a browser and we just go to 192.168.1.28, the actual IP address of your virtual machine, which, like I said, you can just get from running ifconfig right there in the inet address up top. You can't see my mouse, but it's because we're on this, but it's right in that line, inet address 192.168.1.28. If we go out to that, you can see that we have allowed traffic, and this is the Apache 2 web server Ubuntu default page, basically saying, hey, it works, you do have your servers correctly configured. So, congratulations, now you have your servers going, and that's the very first part of this LAMP stack. Now we need to get MySQL running, so let's get into it. Alright guys, so in order to get MySQL running, we're going to do the following. We will go with sudo apt-get install MySQL-server, and that's going to run through doing what it needs to do in order to give us MySQL. It's going to tell us how much more disk space it'll take. Just go ahead and hit yes on that. So now, once that's all wrapped up, we're going to go ahead and run the SQL secure installation command. Now it's going to ask us if we want to put a password for the root user. I would do so if I were you, especially because we're going to be pen testing this, so we want to have some sort of security, right? But at the same time, we want to leave some vulnerabilities in it as well so that we can secure them. Now, that's going to be more so what I talk about after I show you guys the command that comes after this little process here. Okay, so now that's finished up, and like I said, we're going to run the MySQL_secure_installation command and get this all up and running. So it's going to ask for my password, which I will give it to, and it's going to ask if we want to do the validate password plugin. I choose no for that, so just use the existing password, and I'm not changing the password for root. Now it's going to ask if we would like to remove anonymous users. I'm going to select no because, like I said, I want to leave some vulnerabilities in this for us to patch later. So we're going to go ahead and hit no on all these. And then we'll hit yes on reload root privileges right now, and then it'll give us all done. So let's keep going. Now we should have a SQL database ready to go. MySQL-u root-p to go ahead and get into that SQL shell. And now we see that we have SQL. So if we select all from, actually, show databases, we have to use a database first. We can see that we now have information schema, MySQL, performance schema, and sys databases, and now we can do whatever we want to do with this database. We'll be actually creating a database in another episode and putting dummy data into it to simulate our sensitive user information for us to be able to hack into. So now that we have Apache web servers and MySQL installed, now the last thing is just to install PHP. So for that, we will run that command again, sudo apt-get. I forgot to stop my SQL shell. That is most certainly the furthest thing from a SQL command. So my -mod -php php-encrypt php MySQL. So we'll run that and it will install PHP for us. Should do so with no problem. So it's going to again tell us how much more disk space it's going to need, and we will let that run. So also we're going to want to modify the way that Apache serves the files when any directory is requested, because whenever a user requests a directory from our server, Apache is going to look for the index.html file first, but we're going to want it to look for index.php first for what we're going to be doing. So I'll show you guys how to change that in the Apache 2 directory configuration file in 1 second. There we go. So now that should have PHP ready to go for us. Now if we get into that file that I just mentioned to change the directory configuration, we'll go into /by/etc Apache 2, and then mods enabled, and then the directory.configuration file. Now you can see here that we have index.html, index.cgi, index.pl, and index.php. Now this is basically ordering them in their order of pretty much precedence, like how the server is going to serve a file whenever the directory is requested. Now what we want to do is take index.php and let's bump it up to the top. And that way it serves that whenever it's requested first. Let's get out of there, and now we should be good on that. So I'm just going to want to restart the Apache web server to make sure that that change takes effect. Systemctl restart Apache 2, and that's going to run. And now we should be good on that. So let's just check on the status of our Apache 2 by running systemctl status Apache 2, and we can see that everything should be good. We have our LAMP system all configured, and I believe we are good to go. So now if we want to, we can install some PHP modules, but I mean that's really not necessary, so I'm not really going to mess with that. So we should be good on that. Now let me just vi/var/www/html, and now we can see that we have an index.html file in here. So this is what's housing that Ubuntu server page, right? This is what's coming whenever we go out to our IP on a web browser. So let's go ahead and just open up a page called info.php, and this will just kind of be a little hello world site to make sure we have PHP working correctly. So I'll go ahead and insert, and we'll open up a PHP tag here, and then we'll just put PHP info and close up our PHP tag and save this. What? Can't open file for writing. Oh, it's because I didn't do it as root. So here, let me quit this, and then we'll sudo vi that, and now we'll do the same thing. Open up a PHP tag. No. There we go. Open up a PHP tag, PHP info, oops, and then close it up and save that. And now we should be good if we go out to our page here and go /info, oops, in the URL .php. Now we can see that this is what we just put in our HTML file. So now guys, we have an Ubuntu server with Linux operating system, Apache web servers properly configured, allowing traffic through the firewall, MySQL database to house our information once we get our dummy data, and PHP enabled with a live site. Now this is just, like I said, to make sure that this is all functional, so you shouldn't actually leave this up because there's a bunch of sensitive information on here that could potentially make your virtual machine vulnerable to anybody that lands on this page. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit sudo rm this, and now if we come back out here, refresh, not found. So that's good. Alrighty guys, well, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you sticking around to the end. And in the next episode, I believe we are going to be creating the dummy database and then figuring out how and showing you guys how to link it up to the PHP site. So, as always, this has been Seth with Renaissance Resurrection. I appreciate you guys watching, and stay tuned for the next episode. Please like and subscribe if you like this content, and visit my website down in the description below so that you can check out my platforms and not miss the announcement for the next video. Until next time, guys, I'm out.